Leonard Maltin is one of the world's best known and most respected movie critics in the business, and he hosts Maltin on Movies, the podcast, with his daughter Jessie. And today we've got both of them live in the South by Southwest studio.
You've got two sweaty Maltins.
Toasty
Maltins.
That actually sounds like something you might have at the movies, when you're watching.
Could.
It's a possibility.
Toasty Maltins.
We should register that, okay.
So the two of you, we have a lot to talk about, but you're here because you have a panel, and it's an exciting panel. It's not just two mavens talking about film. You're actually inviting people to counter your opinions on cinema.
Yes, indeed. And Jessie came up with the idea and the name.
Yep, you're wrong, Leonard Maltin.
And we took this for a test drive at San Diego Comic-Con last year. And it went really well.
It was glorious.
It's not an idea, if you think of cable TV where they're all shouting at each other,
right,
or trying to talk over each other, that's not what this is. And it's not a put-down situation. It's a lively debate. That's what we're going for, a lively debate. And that's what it should be. The internet and social media have raised the level of vitriol, discouragingly high. And we want to counter that. We want to do just the opposite.
You in the panel description, it says near the bottom, the rules of the Marquess of Roxbury rules are required, which I thought was really funny, and I had to look it up and then realized it's like old-timey boxing rules.
Marquess of Queensberry.
Queensberry, excuse me. Thank you. That's really exciting. So when is this happening?
Tomorrow at 3:30.
Okay.
So that's to say Sunday.
Sunday at 3:30.
Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. And because on paper it does sound like it could go horribly wrong, but the fact that it's gone so well means a lot.
Well, we're hoping it will continue to go in the direction we want it to go.
Basically, you're always trying to. I brought my dad to social media, and my dad. We all have nicknames in the Maltin Empire, which is me, my mom, and my dad. Maltin Empire. We each have a role. He's the talent, and that's all we let him do. He can't do anything else. He can barely remember socks some days, so he's just talent. My mom is the boss, and everyone knows Alice is the boss. She's the queen, she's the boss. And the name he gave me a long time ago was the liaison to new media. Terribly fancy.
And facilitator.
Yes, yeah. So I put him onto Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and all of that. And people love it because they have access to him.
Sure.
And a lot of people don't know. We always describe my dad as coming off as quite professorial. And, people, especially if they grew up reading his books or watching him on the VHS of Star Wars, whatever it is, that's kind of how they see him. And so it's really fun for us to show them how goofy and silly he is and that he doesn't take himself too seriously. So whether it's stuff like us just posting ridiculous pictures or reactions to films, which after we saw something, we went to the Calgary Film Festival last year, saw a film and took a photo afterwards where we were both going like this. and it's just fun for me to get to kind of introduce him in a different way to people.
And I could see how you might, come off as maybe being in an ivory tower because of all of the movies you've seen. And I was actually curious to know how many films do you estimate you've actually watched and reviewed?
12,300.
I don't estimate anymore. The last edition of my annual movie guide, which I did for so many years, the big thick paperback reference book, the last edition had 16,000 reviews in it. And I've always had a staff working with me and never made a secret of that. It's on the title page. They're contributors. No one person could see.
What do you call me?
Oh, the Rob Schneider specialist.
He doesn't love me, is what it is. So my job for reviewing one of them was Adam Sandler and Rob Schneider movies.
It's very specific.
But anyway, I've seen thousands, but I stopped counting at a certain point.
So your technique or your strategy for dividing and conquering is the two of you and then the other team members.
No, it was in the sense of, so for the movie guide, it used to be. It's so strange to not be doing it anymore because it was such a huge part of our lives.
I did it for 45 years.
Yeah.
Because I signed a contract to do it when I was 17 years old.
Which we now realize was null and void because he was 17 years old.
I was a minor. But it came out when I was 18 and a freshman at NYU. And little dreaming it would be such a big part of my life for so many years to follow. But there's still a book in print, which is Leonard Maltin's classic movie guide.
Okay.
And this is for films from 1965 and earlier, going back to the silent movie era. And that's alive and well.
Let's talk about The World According to Maltin. What
I like that.
What criteria do you consider when you're reviewing a film?
I don't go in with a checklist. People often ask me that question. I don't go in ticking off boxes. And all I'm asking is that a film engage me. And if it's a dumb teen comedy, well, at least be a good dumb teen comedy. And if it's going to be a Shakespearean presentation, be the best Shakespearean presentation.
Yeah.
Whatever it may be, I try to take each movie on its own terms.
That's the thing that I love and tell people all the time is exactly that. Meet a movie on its own terms. And it's what he says all the time, because that's exactly it. If you walk into anything, name some sort of ridiculous blockbuster. If you walk into one of the Transformers movies and you're expecting Shakespeare, you're not going to get that.
Right.
But if you go in and you say, I just want to have a good time, and you come out and you have, then it's succeeded.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of movies like that. You know, people love the whole Fast and the Furious thing, which is, what are they on, 8,000? Like, it's ridiculous. But if you go into those saying, all right, let's see, you know.
Sure.
There's no point.
I am that kind of a movie goer and I remember reading someone's review of Deadpool 2, and it said something along the lines of, this movie is not for me, but it is definitely the best sequel since The Godfather 2.
Yeah.
You know?
I respect that kind of review.
Yeah.
Because one of the things that people tend to do, I've learned from firsthand experience, meeting people in hotel lobbies, at conferences, in airports, wherever it may be, supermarkets.
Bathrooms.
Is if people say, oh, I like your reviews, that tends to mean they agree with my reviews.
Sure.
And if you read or listen to or view a film critic on a regular basis, you tend to get an idea of what their likes and dislikes are, maybe what their prejudices or blind spots are, so that you know that if this person is reviewing a horror movie and you're a real horror aficionado, you're probably not going to agree with them. And that's a good way to gauge your response to a critic.
When do you know, because I'm sure it doesn't happen all the time, when you've sort of seen lightning in a bottle, you walk out of a cinema?
You just know, it's a gut feeling. And I trust my gut. I mean, I've learned to trust my instantaneous reaction to a movie. I don't have to go back to see it a second time or a third time to know what I really felt. That's not to say I might not appreciate more qualities of a film on a second viewing, but that first time out is the reaction I want to give to my readers or my viewers or listeners.
Yeah. My dad's been teaching for 21 years now at USC, University of Southern California, and he is such a wonderful teacher. And I always say I'm amazed watching him because he's so good at it. And I think part of it is he's not the type of person to speak down to anyone, ever, just in life. But I think it really works well with students because they don't feel, he's not going, I'm going to impart upon you. No, he says, the first night of class, he says to them, you know, I want to make you better moviegoers.
A smarter audience.
Yeah. I want you to understand how much work went into everything. I want you to know what a sound mixer is, what, you know, all of that. And it's a really cool thing to watch all these kids, because it's not all film students, it's 360 kids. The craziest part, of course, is that everywhere we go, because he's been teaching for 21 years, you hear, Professor Maltin, Professor, everywhere. And they all love him, and they all have the happiest memories of doing class like that. And
I've inherited this famous class that was started in the early 60s by a very prominent film critic of that era named Arthur Knight. And he taught it for many, many years. And I believe it was under his watch that George Lucas took this class.
Oh, wow.
And then Ron Howard took this class.
I've heard of him.
And many others I could name. And then when he retired, the baton was picked up by Charles Champlin, who was then the senior film critic of the Los Angeles Times and kind of a cultural ambassador around town in LA, and a lovely man. And when he retired, I got it. And I'm in my 21st year now doing it.
So do you let people know that you do? I mean, it's known that you don't walk out of film screenings, no matter how bad they are. Now, I'm always impressed when a movie ends, and because even if I think it's terrible, the fact that it got made to me is impressive because so much goes into it. Is that something you try to impart upon your students? And people,
yes.
just
Oh
film
yes.
fans?
Well, when we screen the films and we have a guest or multiple guests from that film, and some of those people are on a circuit of screenings with Q&As afterwards. And at a lot of those screenings, they cut off the credits at the end because they're worried that the audience will be impatient. And it's a legitimate worry.
And it drives us nuts.
And then they'll walk out. And I've seen it happen many times. Well, in my auditorium where we teach, they're students and they're required to stay. So, and I always tell them, you're not done with the movie until you've been threatened with civil and criminal prosecution.
That's right at the end of the credits.
That's it.
And you need to know that this film did not harm any animals.
That's
exactly.
right. All of those
Except
things.
now we know that all the animals were harmed. But in general.
Yeah. I want to make sure we don't miss out on some of the other projects that you guys are working on that are really exciting.
Well, the most exciting one is the newest thing to announce, which we just announced yesterday.
We announced the tickets yesterday. We let people know about the fact that it was happening in January. Maltin Fest.
We're doing our very own Maiden Voyage Film Festival. And we're doing it in the heart of Hollywood at Grauman's Egyptian Theater, which is in itself exciting because it's a historic theater that's been lovingly saved.
Yes.
And it's one of our favorite places to see a movie.
Yeah.
And now we're going to show movies there. And the concept of the festival is to celebrate hidden gems. Movies of recent vintage that flew under the radar or slipped through the cracks, whatever metaphor you want to use, because they deserve a bigger audience. They deserve a real audience. And that's what we're going to show. And we're going to have guests, and we'll have fellow critics and podcasters.
We've got a book signing, podcasters. We have some friends of ours selling, I have a friend who makes incredible movie-themed pins. He's going to be selling his pins. A friend of mine who's a fantastic graphic designer, she's going to be selling her work. We've got shorts, like classic shorts, and some cartoons. We have a little bit of everything.
What we want to do is create a community, at least for the span of that weekend, which we hope we can sustain after that. Because, look, we all watch movies at home, and there's nothing, intrinsically wrong with that. I have no brief against Netflix or Amazon or any of those services.
We love using them. We use them a lot.
But still, the best way to see a movie is the way it was originally meant to be seen, on a big screen in the dark with a simpatico audience.
Sure.
And then, to our mind, what adds to the experience is either hearing from someone who was involved with the movie or just talking to the other people about it. Hey, what'd you think?
Sure. But, I mean, that's an interesting point, and I actually want you got to it before I did, which is what your thoughts are on the change and evolution of the experience of cinema.
Well, and actually, we're doing the mentor program. And on Monday, we're doing one of those meetings where it's a bunch of different...
Here at South by.
Yeah, here at South by. A couple of different people come together. I think we've got 20 or something like that. And the whole idea is to talk about kind of whatever you want to talk about, what you'd like to impart. And for us, it's all about that. It's the respect. It's the fact that you can't say you dislike certain films because you will be killed, in the same way that you can't say you love certain films because you will be killed.
Because the tone of discussion, if it's called discussion, on social media has become so nasty.
It's mean.
Sure.
Hardly a week goes by that I don't hear of some celebrity, usually it's a celebrity, saying, I'm getting off social media.
I can't take it anymore.
I can't take all the negativity, the outright hostility, and we get that.
And that's a problem for everyone, but more specifically to people who are film mavens, how are you using the internet now, today, to sort of break through all of the noise and make sure that what you want to share is being shared?
We're nice. That's really, it sounds silly, but that's the main thing.
Well,
nice,
I
speak to... the other word I'd use is respectful.
But you're also transitioning. I mean, a lot of people probably wouldn't assume that a man who's written a tome every single year, would now be embracing the internet. Like, how have you transitioned into using it?
We use LeonardMaltin.com, and that's existed for I don't even
I've
know
had a
how
website
many years.
for many, many years
Long
where
time.
I post reviews, as well as essays, journals about going to film festivals, DVD and Blu-ray reviews of classic films, film book reviews, because film books have a hard time making themselves known now. You know, traditional media tend to recede in younger generations' lives, it's more and more important to use a platform to call attention to something worthwhile.
The main thing for me, because the social media world is my world.
Sure.
For this.
She's
It's
the
very-
locomotive and I'm the caboose in social media, just to be clear.
Not in life, just in social
Okay,
media.
yes.
But no, basically, my whole thing is I love meeting and talking to people, especially film buffs, because we love talking to each other. And what people understand on our Twitters is that if you're rude, you get kicked out. If you are unpleasant, so many people in unison will come for you, block you, delete you, because they know that we don't allow it. So when we post certain things, I can have the liveliest, most fantastic conversation with zero negativity, just discussion.
Sure.
And that's sort of like the whole thing with You're Wrong, Leonard Maltin, is it's the idea that you're able to come up to him and say, why didn't you like The Dark Knight more? And he can tell you. He'll explain what it is.
To disagree.
Sure.
Yeah, and he can explain what it is that, well, this is why it didn't work for me. And then they'll say, yeah, but I really like this. And he can say, oh, but the cinematography was great. I understand. And so you're having this conversation.
What are some of the more
But
recent?
just to interrupt
please,
for 1 second.
please.
The phenomenon of social media, which started really with the internet, even before Twitter came along and then Instagram and those things, is that people don't feel times people don't feel they're talking to a human being.
Yeah.
They're just venting, right?
When they say, I hope you die, they don't think about there's a
using all
person on the other
caps and
side.
exclamation points and all that. And they don't really think about the fact that there may be an actual person on the other end of that communication reading it and taking it personally. And if you respond to them in a calm and intelligent way, they sometimes not just back off, they apologize.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
They say, well, I didn't mean to be disrespectful to you.
Yeah.
I was just saying.
A quick example of it is a woman, my dad posted a review, I don't even remember what the movie was, posted a review for something. A woman responded and said, you don't understand anything, just retire already. I clicked on her profile just to see who she was, and the first line is Christ-loving, church-going, this whole thing. And so I tweeted to her and I said, for a person who starts off their profile by saying that you love God and treating others nicely and doing all this stuff, you just told him to retire. That's not very nice. And she wrote back immediately saying, you're right. I'm so sorry. I wasn't thinking. I didn't think about the fact that he might see it. And it's like, yeah, he did. And she could not have been nicer.
What films, because I don't want to run out of time here, and like I said, you guys are mavens, and I'm excited to know about what you think. What films at South by are you excited to see?
Oh, well, we're working South by. So unfortunately, film going becomes secondary just by nature.
Yeah.
And so I can't give you a good list. I wish we'd seen Us last night, but
Very
we got in
exciting,
late
yes.
in the day and we weren't able to cut that. But we did get to see the preview of What We Do in the Shadows, the first episode.
That's in your podcast that you have, and I'm very excited about that. And is it as good as the movie?
It's fun. It's a lot of fun.
It's a lot of so the podcast we did is Harvey Guillen, who's one of the leads in the show. He and I went to school together, and we've known each other for 14 years. And he's fantastic. He's always been talented, extremely driven. He worked really, really hard. Works really, really hard, but especially just to get here, worked his butt off to make it happen. And so we had him on the show because I said what I would love to do is introduce more people to you. And since they're going to see you in the show, and he's great in the show.
Oh, he's terrific.
It's like
a great part.
It's a wonderful thing. It comes full circle, and we love it.
I cried laughing when I watched that film, so I'm so excited about it.
It's really, really
I
good.
think if you really like the film, you'll
Yeah.
like, based on what we saw,
Yeah.
which I think was the pilot episode.
Yeah, it was, yeah.
What do you enjoy about South by Southwest for you?
Meeting people. Number one, meeting people.
Yeah.
Being stopped on the street, literally, and meeting people. and getting to participate in different activities. We're doing our panel. We're going to record an episode of our podcast
today
with the king of podcasts, Mark Maron.
Oh yeah. And your podcast is called, just for the viewers,
Maltin on Movies.
Maltin on Movies.
Okay, and that's exciting.
Get it wherever you get your podcast.
That's right. Wherever a podcast lands, have one.
Anyway, we're interviewing Mark Maron and the filmmaker Lynn Shelton. And
For Sort of Trust, which they're showing here.
Okay.
so we're looking forward to that, certainly.
Yeah.
And I'm going to appear on an episode of Doug Loves Movies.
You're not supposed to say that.
Which I'm not supposed to say.
Okay.
Bad, Leonard.
That's a really
Very
good.
bad,
That's a
Leonard.
really good place to end. Cut you off
Yeah.
before you ruin something
Yep,
else.
yep. He's the Tom Holland of film critics.
I'd like to
That's-
thank the Toasty Maltins for
Thank
being
you very
here.
much.
I'd like to, honestly, I really appreciate you being here. And I'd like to thank everyone out there for tuning in. We will be back streaming live at 1:30 p.m. Central Time today with Amber Ruffin and Jenny Hagel, who are two writers from NBC's Late Night with Seth Meyers. Thanks so much for watching. Thank you.